I want to give you 15 reasons why the Gospels were not written by eyewitnesses. 1. Neither Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John even claim to be written by eyewitnesses. 2. There is not even one occasion where any of the Gospel authors speak about anything they saw themselves. 3. Matthew talks about Matthew in the third person in chapter 9, verse 9, saying Jesus saw a man called Matthew sitting at the tax collection office. He said, "Follow me," and he got up and followed him. 4. The church doesn't even consider Mark or Luke as eyewitness testimonies. 5. The church says Mark was the interpreter for Peter and Luke was Paul's physician, but neither Mark nor Luke were eyewitnesses to Jesus. 6. Matthew uses Mark and Luke as a source. It is not logical that an eyewitness would use people as sources who were not even there. 7. Luke admits he is not an eyewitness in the first 2 verses of chapter 1, saying many people have written these things before, and those who were eyewitnesses from the beginning handed these things down to us. 8. Luke writes to most excellent Theophilus, who was most likely the bishop of Antioch in the late 2nd century, and that would mean the gospel wasn't written by anyone who lived in the 1st century. 9. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were not even attributed as the authors until the late 2nd century by Irenaeus. 10. Justin Martyr quoted from the Gospels in the mid-2nd century, but he never mentioned Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John as the authors. 11. John is never identified in the text as the disciple whom Jesus loved, but Lazarus was. Therefore, the text provides stronger evidence that the Gospel of John is the testimony of Lazarus and not John. 12. John 16:32 and Mark 14:50 says all the disciples forsook Jesus and fled. So how could they be eyewitnesses to his trial and crucifixion? 13. John 18:28 says Pilate took Jesus into the praetorium alone, but we have the entire conversation recorded. There were no eyewitnesses to this conversation. 14. John 19:35 says, "He who has seen has testified of these things," which indicates that someone else is retelling the testimony of an unidentified witness. 15. John 21:24 claims that the disciple whom Jesus loved was the one who testified to these things and wrote these things, and we know his testimony is true. So again, an unknown author is retelling the testimony of an unknown eyewitness.